The United States advances past Iran 1-0. The goal, of course, coming from none other than the man we have all dubbed Captain America himself, Christian Pulisic. A heroic effort late in the first half, one that ultimately cost him his spot on the field. He was a sub at 45 minutes for Brendan Aronson. Herc, your first thoughts on the 90 minutes that we just witnessed and really what those 90 minutes mean, which is that this U.S. team is through to the round of 16.
The overall 90 minutes was close to brilliant. There were a few lapses here and there where I thought it was shaky, but if you're talking about an overall performance, sans I would say the last 10 minutes, well, last 19 minutes if you go with the 9 minutes of stoppage time, where I felt maybe the wrong decision in personnel was made, the wrong posture, the wrong message was sent. It was pretty brilliant. Now, I've had plenty of doubts about this generation and their toughness. I went as far as called them soft.
You
and
did
soft
call them
because
soft.
of the national team coach, Greg Berhalter. They really struggled to play against physical teams. That was the MO.
We saw it against Wales.
Everybody had said, well, Iran's going to come in a low block. They're going to make it difficult. Iran didn't come in a low block. They played in the mid block to press them, and they made it difficult in how physical they were. But I saw a U.S. men's national team that was not only up for the challenge, but embraced it. I saw a different side of the U.S. men's national team today that I've not seen before. And to say I was pleasantly surprised and impressed would be an understatement. I thought there were some big-time performances today.
They get through the group. They get through the group second. Going to match up with Netherlands. We'll talk about that later. But just as we look at this tournament, we look at the expectations coming in. We acknowledge the fact that the United States missed the last World Cup. This tournament now becomes a resounding success, doesn't it?
Of course. Of course. What was the expectation for these players?
Get through.
Get through. Get through. And even then, you were like, all right, how do we measure that if they don't get through? 2026 has always been the goal for everybody when you look at this roster.
I disagree there.
Well,
I don't think I don't think you overlook a World Cup. I think maybe fans might have been thinking that, hey, they could do okay here and it'll be great in 2026. Maybe that's the deep run. Well, this is a World Cup right now. I
then
think
what
we
you're
have to
doing is
evaluate
overlooking
this.
the competition if you expect a bunch of kids to just come and steamroll players that have played in multiple World Cups. What I'm saying is this team with no prior World Cup experience, who's the only experienced player here?
In terms of World Cup, DeAndre Yedlin is the only player to have played
one
in
World Cup. Has he played a minute?
No.
No. 0 World
Has
Cups.
he been played?
No, he's not played.
Okay.
Coming into this, and yet they look like a seasoned team. I'm telling you, when you talk to people about this U.S. men's national team, there are verbs being thrown around that we've not heard in 18 months when it comes to them. And Greg Berhalter, they talk about how well coached this team is, how trabajado, how drilled it is, how fast, dynamic, how exciting they are. The young potential group, and everybody. We're still at a World Cup, but they all say, wow, 2026. What's that's going to be like for the U.S. men's national team?
You use the word seasoned, which I think, is another way to say you saw this team kind of grow up, become experienced. Would you apply that to the whole of the group phase, or are you saying that now based on what they did today against Iran in a match, a situation that we know was just loaded with tension?
Whole of the group phase.
Okay.
Yeah, because we saw them versus Wales, dominant 45, and then they got shelled. And then the reaction was a dominant 90 versus one of the tournament favorites. And then another reaction versus a very difficult Iran team who was playing with lots of emotions, reports that family members being threatened back home. You could only imagine what it must be like to play in a game of that magnitude, that tension. We saw it in the presser, just highly charged politically that was, emotional for both teams. It's not an easy game to play in, Seb.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm sure we're going to talk to Casey. He's going to tell us all about that. But I saw a maturation of this team throughout this tournament. Those 45 minutes versus Wales were a learning experience. When you fail, it has to be a learning experience, so you don't fall that way again. I saw a very well-worked team from that failure, from those 45 minutes. So, yes, seasoned in that sense throughout the group phase.
This tournament, and specifically this setup right here, reminded me so much of your World Cup, of the 2010 World Cup. There's the 2 draws to start group phase, one of them against a heavily favored England side, and you come into a last game where you could either finish, it was still on the table to finish first in the group or potentially last and out of the tournament, right? A total disaster. And if we go back to the 2010 World Cup against Algeria, right before Landon Donovan and go USA. Algeria has a great chance,
Right.
which would have
It's
made it
the counter
1-0.
from Tim Howard. It goes the opposite end.
And could have sent you guys crashing out of the tournament. We have to acknowledge the narrow margins here, right? Because
Yes.
we're going to talk later. We're going to grade Greg Berhalter's group phase. We gave him a grade, but that grade would have changed dramatically if Iran gets a goal in the last 10 minutes, and they did come very close. There was a couple half chances and opportunities where I think maybe had Iran been more clinical, even clinical at all, like just to put it on frame, they had chances where there were guys open and they didn't make Matt Turner work. Had they, we might be singing a very different tune, and it goes to show you not just the thin margins in international soccer, but the thin margins of success and failure.
We've spoken about it before.
Iran scores. This is an unmitigated failure, right?
Well, Seb, think about it this way. The margins for success and failure, when we talk about the greatest moment in modern history for U.S. soccer is 2002. They were 1-1-1 in group play. Poland in the last game smacked them around. They only got into the next round to face Mexico because South Korea helped them with Portugal. And then they get into the next round as a CONCACAF team, and then they're a handball away from going to a semifinal. So it's so slim. Let me throw some flowers in my group, 2010, since you brought it up. You know what the difference is, and here's my worry?
What?
That 2010 team was 0-2 down at halftime versus Slovenia. This team, this U.S. men's national team, and we tied that game. The first team in World Cup history not to lose a game down 0-2, okay? We should have won, by the way. Moadou shot out. That was a goal. This team has not been smashed. Has not been hit in the face hard enough. And what I mean
is... You don't even count that second half against Wales?
No. What I mean is they've not been scored on first.
They've not been down.
Yes.
You don't know if this team has rally in them is what you're saying. Well,
I think they got rally in them from what I've seen. The
counter to that is they never let themselves get behind, and that's a good quality to have.
It is. But there's a level of psyche that gets brought into this when you find yourself down. A sinking feeling. How do you react from that? That's the only thing I think this 2010 team can hold over them, because talent level, I mean, you look at where these players play. You look at how they play right now, because they're playing a very good brand. They're so fast. They're so dynamic. They're so, I mean, it's 1, 2, 3 touches in the opposing end, technical. I think the central defense has been brilliant. It's been insane to me. It blows my mind how good they've been centrally with the two center backs and Tyler Adams, like that trio right there. And then if you go off Musa, who's not even shown us the standard Musa trait, driving the ball, but he's been an animal there.
There was a great challenge in the first half.
His work rate's been
comes
unreal.
From behind and
I've
wins
not
it.
seen that work rate all World Cup qualifying. I've seen other traits of his, and I'm still waiting for those to come out to be exploited, but he's been so good.
Let's break down the American performance specifically against Iran. For you, what is the key, the most important key to victory tonight?
It's how dynamic they were. And with that being dynamic, there's an intensity and a speed that comes with it, excuse me. We talked about them matching the emotion, matching the intensity. They set the intensity. They set the tone as far as rhythm. They set the tone as far as speed of play. And I thought Iran really struggled with that at times. And listen, an Iran that everybody thought would sit back, that wasn't the case. They were more of a mid-block because they wanted those chances against the U.S. They wanted the U.S. to lose the ball higher up the field. That didn't happen. And then the U.S. got opportunities in transition like I told you they would. They just didn't take advantage of it. I mean, there was a Timothy Weah goal, second half. They got called back, rightfully so.
Yeah, late in the first half.
You can see them testing that back line, testing the spaces. You know, it was a brilliant display at times, learning moments that they will have to get better at. There's a chance at the end where there was a possible penalty kick.
Would you say it's the best they've played in this World Cup?
Yes, I would.
Yeah?
Yes.
Over England?
Well,
over the
because
first half
I factor the opponent when it comes to England, right?
Right.
But if you're talking about just the general play, it was the best game by far.
You know, I think the big story in terms of, for me, what the real key here is how this team, a very young team, managed the emotions of this game. And specifically why I bring that up is because something Greg Berhalter talked about in the press conference the other day, having watched that game in 1998. And if you go back to that game, you get the sense that one team was really up for it, Iran, and the American team kind of shrunk in that moment. And I think clearly, if Greg Berhalter's telling us to press that, he's sharing that with his team. Then we throw all of the stuff, all of the extra stuff that happened in the couple days before this game. There was a lot of tension, probably a lot of nerves within this U.S. locker room. And what I saw was a team that was ready, but not too hot, right? In a game like this, I could absolutely see you being like, I'm so jacked up, I'm going to make a mistake early. And instead, this team rode that fine line of being absolutely buzzing without going over the top and causing themselves problems.
I want to pick my words wisely here.
Mm-hmm.
That 1998 team had its own set of problems
Yes.
before meeting Iran.
Yes. You can read about it on ESPN.com. There's an oral history. Jeff Carlisle
It's
helped
brilliant,
write it.
and
Yeah,
I recommend you check it out. There's a lot to detail there. That
but I
said,
think, just really quick, that Iran-USA game also had a lot of political tension around it, and I think the Iranians rode that, and the Americans didn't.
That said, and I'm sure Casey can explain this better than anyone else, I don't know if they grasped the magnitude, the players, of what was going on. Now, I go back to the presser yesterday, and I go back to Tyler Adams. Tyler Adams understood the moment. Tyler Adams is the youngest captain in this World Cup, not by a year, not by 2, almost by like 6, 7 years. And he spoke like an individual who knew exactly what he was getting into, who understood the exact moment. I think that is contagious. These players themselves immerse themselves in the situation. They've bought in to the cause. And when I mean the cause, it's not just we're playing a game. It's they know exactly where they are. They know exactly what's going on. And their input has been tremendous. And then when I say input, it's what they tell us, but also what they show us.
Let's get to the moment of the match. I think it's a pretty easy choice here. There were some controversial plays, maybe late in the game from an Iranian perspective, but it's that Christian Pulisic goal, 38th minute. It's a brilliant Pulisic finish. We can talk about his role in it, but that's not where the play starts, Herc. It's really a beautiful build-up that ends in a fantastic finish. Yeah,
it's Weston McKennie, who didn't have the greatest game, if we're being honest.
Okay.
I thought he was a little imprecise.
At some point in the first half, you looked at me and you were like, Weston's struggling. Weston's struggling.
And that could be fitness issues, so we know how important fitness is for any player, especially Weston McKennie. But the ball is brilliant. He finds Serginho Dest on the right-hand side. Serginho Dest oftentimes tries to do a little too much. He was aware of the moment right back across the goal with his head. And Christian Pulisic is closing in that back door. He's right where he needs to be. Takes a shot.
Yes.
Could be to the chest. Could be the head. We don't know. But after that, he wasn't the same. He wasn't as spry, and you can tell they were just trying to get him in through half so his substitute can have a proper warm-up and then come on, which was the case. But without a doubt, the game-changing moment. So they were already on top of Iran. But once that goal came, you felt like it was there for the taking. You felt like number 2 or 3 can come in and it's game blouses.
I mean, for me, if Christian Pulisic is the poster boy, this is his poster moment, right? This is the moment he needed. He's been so close. He gets the assist to Tim Weah in the first game. It's the crossbar off the middle of the crossbar against England. He's been knocking at the door. And this goal is a goal that, yes, it's a brilliant ball wide from McKennie. It's a brilliant header across. But this is down to Christian Pulisic's hustle. I mean, it is a burning run into the middle. He sacrifices his body because he knows it has to be a goal. And I think Christian Pulisic also knows it had to come from him. And I think this is just something that will take his status in terms of American soccer fans. You've always said it until you do it with the national team. Dempsey, Donovan, Pulisic's now.
Said that.
He's there. He's there.
How many goals the U.S. men's national team have?
2.
Who's been involved in both goals?
Goal and an assist for Pulisic.
Goal and an assist. This man is putting things on his shoulders. He's tired of hearing the rhetoric. He's trying to hear the narrative of the English Premier League that he's not ready, that he's a 2-bit player, that he's a role player. He understands the situation at Chelsea. He wants more, and he's playing like a man possessed. He's been one of the best players for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, and to be fair, he was buzzing right from the get-go. Actually, I think when we talk about the emotions of this game, if you go back, and I've got it written down here, the first 90 seconds, Christian Pulisic makes like a 40-yard run on the ball, and you're like, oh, okay, he's up for it. Beyond that, Tyler Adams had a big defensive clearance 30 seconds in on a set piece. Like, the guys you needed to have big performances were ready right from the jump. And I think Pulisic today, even though it's only 45 minutes, he may as well have played 90. That's the impact that he had on this match.
How many times have we mentioned Matt Turner?
Not a lot.
There's a reason for that, and it's not just a defensive line.
He was busy in moments tonight.
Was he?
Busy? No, busy's not the right word, but he could have been busy again had Iran put those shots on target.
But was he? Because almost doesn't cut it in life. Okay, that's not going to get you everything you want.
But your point is that Turner wasn't busy because of the guys in front of him. I think the guys in front of him made a couple moments today where they got beat.
But there's a couple moments for every national team in the world. Okay. Brazil versus Switzerland. Did you watch that?
Yes.
Okay. Brazil's a favorite, by the way. What I'm trying to tell you is Matt Turner was not busy because of the guys in front of him. I'm not talking the back line. This is an effort of the whole team.
Okay.
It's a full 10 in front of you plus the goalkeeper. He's not been busy all tournament because of the front line and how they pressure, because of the midfield and how they are tremendous in transition, offense and defensively. How much ground Tyler Adams has covered. Tyler Adams is going to cover every single country in kilometers by the time he finishes his World Cup.
Yeah.
And he was carrying a yellow. You know how
He
high
picked up an early yellow, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how high your game IQ has to be if you're a defensive midfielder to not I was going to say foul out, but it's essentially that's what you're doing. I got the second yellow and to go out to be red carded. I mean, but still get the same intensity every single time, not hold off, not put your foot off the accelerator. That is Tyler Adams. It's a complete shift by everybody, and that's what makes Matt Turner not a discussion for us. We're not going to talk about Matt Turner because he had no work. Why? Because that team puts in a shift, but they put in a shift on both sides of the ball. They're so difficult to play against right now.
If you usually watch our show, you know we have kind of a book it segment.
Right.
Christian Pulisic was plus 250 anytime score today, plus 600 first to score. Tyler Adams was plus 330 to get a yellow card in this game.
Which one did you cash in?
I know some people who
Which
might
one
have
did you
hammered
cash
both
in?
of those. I know some people that might have hammered both of those. Let's get.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.